everyone in this room and all of you joining us through Zoom or YouTube, welcome. And welcome to ITC's first Dean's Distinguished Industry Lecture Series. Now, this lecture series is established with the strong support of Faculty Dean, aimed at having highly accomplished industry leaders to share their insights among PolyU students and alumni, enabling them to broaden their horizon and to keep abreast of the latest development in the industry. I'm extremely honored to introduce our first speaker of this series, Ms. Shirley Chan. Ms. Chan is currently a vice chairman of YGM Trading Limited and director of Yangjigang Garment Limited. YGM Trading is a company engaging in fashion retail and distribution for many world-renowned brands. And Yangjigang Garment Limited specializes in high-quality textile and garment manufacturing. Ms. Chen is highly involved in many public services in industrial and business sectors. She's currently the chairman of ITC's Industry Advisory Board, a council member of PolyU, council member of the Hong Kong Trade Development Council, also the chairman of the Hong Kong Trade Development Council's Staff and Finance Committee, executive committee member of the Chinese Manufacturers Association of Hong Kong, and chairman Emeritus of Hong Kong Brand Development Council, as well as a founder of the SARS Hong Kong Foundation, which focuses on youngsters' cardiac health. We are so fortunate to have Ms. Shirley Chan as our first speaker of the Dean's Distinguished Industry Lecture Series to share her invaluable insights on the management of fashion business in the new normal. And to show our sincere appreciation, I would like to invite our Faculty Dean and Deputy President and Provost Designate, Professor W.T. Wang, to come to the stage to present a certificate of appreciation to Ms. Chan. Yeah, thank you. Would you join me? Welcome again.
So good evening, everyone. I hope you don't mind if I take off my mask. Okay, would be easier to speak. Okay, thank you. So this lecture, or to me, is a more sharing, session that has been long awaited for, in a way, even for myself, because it was started. We're thinking of that, in last year, and then it has been delayed for almost a year. And beforehand, Professor Fan, he sort of asked me to talk about something on the evolution of fashion. But because with this 1 year changes, actually, the fashion, business is very different. So that's why I asked him whether should I change it a little bit different with the subject, like, what is a new normal? Because with this pandemic, everything is a big change. So that's why, I thought of, maybe I make it a little bit broader, so that, the scope, so we can start, to see how our industry from the 1950, ever since, after the war, how it started, until now that, with the 70 years, it's a big change. And then now, with this pandemic, even, it's more, so I hope that I just share some insight. It's nothing, I know that all the faculties people are here, they are all professionals, they have, you have all this kind of expertise. So for me, it's, my sharing is something, on the business side. Okay, and so thank you very much, for all your, all the professors, all the deans, and all your, all the faculties people, of course, all the students, that you're all here, from, this is actually, it's something new already. It's an online and offline, right? So this is a new normal. Beforehand, it would be all together, in one place. So this is something new. So to start out, maybe, you can see from this slide, maybe some of you, or most of you, are not born for the first slide, which is in the 1950s, okay? So after the war, Hong Kong, sort of having this kind of workshop, for, like garment. And when we say workshop, it's not really like a factory. It's just very simple machines, whereby, it's a home, very domestic type, that people live in there, and work in there. They might sleep, on the bed, they don't have the bed, but using the, the cutting side or whatever. And then in the 60s, that is more organized. There are factories, but still very small scale. It's only in the 1970s whereby, we have, the more well-established factories, here. And, and then when it comes, to China, when it first opened up in 1979, so there are more, then, with this economic reform, so they invited a lot of people to go back to see to China, to see whether is there anything that they can do, for factories-wise or any kind of investment over there. And at that time, they're given a lot of land, or the labor, because the labor cost at that time was lower compared to Hong Kong, and then with the land. And then Hong Kong has all this kind of expertise, so which is a good matching between Hong Kong and China. So there's a lot of businessmen would choose, this Pearl River Delta because it's easier, for the transportation. And also, a lot of Hong Kong people are from the south. So, with a similar language, similar kind of culture. So there's a lot of factories open up then. And then, at end of 80s to about 90, that 10 years at the peak, that, a lot of this, northbound reallocation happened. And Hong Kong has, we have some golden period. This is, in the year of 70 to 2000, that 30 years are really good for garment manufacturing. Our export, and, local production, China production, or even sometimes, the Asian, the Southeast Asian production. But it's only until 2004, with the termination of textile quota, which means, there's no more quota, and then the multinational, companies, they're sourcing things, textile and apparel can be anywhere of the world. And that's just one of the hit to Hong Kong textile, and garment, manufacturers. And so with this global sourcing, it had some pro and con. So in a way that, okay, it gives the buyer, they have better, more opportunity, to buy, all over the world. But then, for the manufacturing side, would be more competitive because they would talk about pricing. So a low-cost pricing, they would talk, there's no quota. So they can really buy from Eastern Europe, to Southeast Asia, to South America, anywhere that they find a convenience. So the lead time will be less, and then the prices are more, competitive. So then this kind of fast fashion sort of evolved, involved in a lot of new brands coming up, and then they really take up a lot of of the retail trade, this kind of things. So imagine in the old times, with the haute couture, the workers can easily spend 70 hours to create a single garment, and yet with this fast fashion, they can change it, overnight, so they can knock off things within weeks, okay, and then will be in the market already. So you can see, then they can really, take the things, like from, the picture here, a Celine, clothing can be a Sarah style within 2 weeks. Or this Gucci, this kind of style, they retail for US $3,400. And yet Forever 21 takes similar clothing, similar style, and yet they just retail for 34.9. So then this kind of change, then the whole world sort of changing, from one to the other. And so, what would we do, okay? In order, because of this kind of fast fashion, what should we do? Okay, it's not everyone is on the fast, retailing. So, so people have to think about, okay, you have to stand out, okay? So we feel that, the innovation of this technology fabric, technical fabric is more important because people are more, they demand, why you are different. And actually, this area is really good for PolyU because you have a lot of technical fabric, a lot of research on this. And so, this a lot of fabric will be with functions like antibacterial, UV cut, temperature gauging, the water repellent or oil repellent, or even now, with linkage with mobile apps. And I think, you have temperature, all these kind of things, you can test, even your heartbeat or whatever. I think it's going on, to be a new thing. And this is something that people are really looking for. For example, like my own company, I have a brand like Ashworth and so on. So when I introduce all this kind of technical fabric, we have this sales training, to our sales girls. They love it so much because they give them an opportunity to talk to their consumer, to our consumer. They can give them story. Oh, this fabric can be, if you wear it, it's a water repellent, and then and then they show it, even dripping with water, under the rain, you won't get wet and so on, So it gives them a dialogue, between the shoppers and then to our retailers. And 3D printing, which is good, So in a way, this is another strength of PolyU, that you have this kind of machine and they're making all this kind of 3D printing, which is, make it, more interesting, not even on the, on the industrial side, but even for commercial side, that, this pleated skirt or this kind of lace, using the 3D finish and all this kind of things, that makes it, more interesting to our industry, to adapt into it. And last year, actually, or the last few years, everybody talk about this sustainability, because with the fast fashion, there's a lot of, people are buying more, but yet a lot of them, are going to the landfills. So people would be suspecting, what would we do, especially, with this kind of clothing is so easy to get, and the prices are so good that it's so easy, just you buy it, and then the next season you'll find it maybe in your wardrobe. A lot of them, the tags are still on. It's not even worn. And yet, the new fashion coming in, they will just throw it away. So that's why, in a lot of this collecting, old garments, you will find that there are tons and tons of, things, garment especially, not worn, or still very new, and yet it gets, to the, landfills. So with this, of course, with the sustainability in fashion, everybody was talking about the reduce. refuse, reuse, and recycle. And of course, that the strategies are whether it can be a sustainable design, or the raw materials, or whether it's on the process on the production side, or even on the procurement, like the wool or the down, or even the resource on the consumption, and how to recycle the fabric. And we are glad that a lot of companies are paying attention to this. And so, there's a lot of, environmental friendly, the manufacturers are committed, to tap on this innovation. And how, like the mills, or, a lot of, a few of this textile, association, that they are, making all this kind of research of how to recycle, the garment back to a yarn, and or how to all this kind of things can be, going back, so that people can use it again as a recycle. Now, this things, just a brief things before we get into the new normal, because when I talk about all this kind of progress, and for this year, early part of this year, with this pandemic happen, it's also burst into all over the world. It makes the world very different. People talk about more health-wise, health issue. We talk about, how do we get out, or how would that be, with the new normal? That's things are so different, but people are getting used to it. Like today, just now, we were talking about, thank you for coming for this. We have sitting here, there feel, the 20, 30 people, and yet I know that you have this Zoom that you're watching it, at home or elsewhere in the office, whatever. So this is kind of a new normal to us. So the first thing is, this e-learning, which is very new to us, because not only in the university, it's even in the kindergarten, that people have to learn, how to use the Zoom. And, the teachers will get involved, the students have to get involved, and also the parents have to get involved, especially when the kids, when you have kids, doing the Zoom. My, Carol, she will say, okay, I have to go home, because my kid doesn't know what to do, right? So this kind of is a new thing, and a new, many tools has to be there. So, because of this shutdown all over the world, we estimate there are 1.38 billion students out of the classroom. And this, this source is on March 2020. Not to imagine, now it's November. The numbers must be much higher. But of course, there's some going back, to school. But, like this 2 weeks, I think, a lot of students are off again. So, so this kind of things, this is very new to us. And also, just the impact on education, as you can see from the, from the slide, that, there's a lot of, students have to be stay at home to do all this kind of homework, or, to do the, education through there. And another thing is the virtual exhibition, because people beforehand, they go, travel all around the world to visit different kind of exhibition, so that, they can, attend the fairs, the trade shows or auctions or any kind of things that they can want to see in person, to touch it and so on. But because of this kind of travel, restriction, so that's, they cannot really, go to that country specifically, to see the exhibition. So that's why, there's a limitation. So everybody will put it online, to see, so that people can visit. But, like Hong Kong TDC, they have a survey. They would ask, okay, they have the things online already, like, their, center stage, or this Canton Fair, was there. So they have some questionnaire to ask, the participant and the visitors, would they like, online or offline? And most of them would say that if they said online is good, at least they can see what is new and so on. But on the other hand, they would say that if they can really visit the exhibition and so on, they would prefer that. So, so how we have to think about the trends is how, a multi-channel is from online to offline. So how can it, how it can sort of react together. And then, with fashion show too, because we are talking about fashion here today. So with fashion show, now, we cannot do any, fashion show. I think probably even your graduate, students want to do the fashion show. Everybody was preparing for it, making all the samples, working hard overnight and all this. And yet, with this pandemic, at the end, you still have to go online, with the show. But of course, you put something back, to the exhibition hall so that people still can visit. But then, with this, a lot of other, like big brands, how would they do it? So they would have to do the show, online, and yet, they have this kind of background. And with this, you would see that, they can have a multimedia. So in a way, this is not only, on the product, on the model, it's how they can integrate it with multimedia. That's something at the background. You can be having something like a space or a garden or different kind of thing, how you can interact together. So, that has to do with choreographer, photography, video, and all this kind of matching. So, in a way that it's an online and offline thing, and yet, it creates a lot of jobs for other fields, that how it can be integrated together. And of course, with this digital workplace, a lot of people has to work at home, or especially this today, I was told that a lot of companies just have the AB shift. And when I call a few people today, they said, oh, today I'm at home. So, this has become a new normal, that, if anything happens, then, people are so used to it, they say, okay, I have, just go back home and then work it there. So, with this kind of things, so we, that will be they have to use a lot of new technology. And with that, you can imagine people would be more dressing down. If you work at home, right? You'll be more relaxed, so they don't have to go out. And so, the fashion trend would be, because of instead of suiting to go out, to go around, there might be just, a T-shirt or something more comfortable to be at home. But then when it comes to ourselves, it really dropped dramatically all over the world. This is a Hong Kong figures. You can see the retails in the fashion and the apparel from January to August. So the highest drop was in March, which is down 67.2%, and April dropped 63.6%. And then in May, June, and July, it's still dropping. Okay, it's not that there's no sign of picking up yet, because of no tourists, and people consumer it's only domestic sales. It's literally this domestic sales, and people are going for this price. It's very price conscious. So instead of going into new fashion, they might go for the pricing. And sadly, there's a lot of fashion store they closed or even go bankrupt. And you can see from this, Brooks Brothers, which has been for years, it filed for bankruptcy. And then, this Centric Group, which they have license for Tommy Hilfiger, Calvin Klein, Under Armour, and so on, they filed for Chapter 11 too. And Debenhams, which is a British retailer, is seeking for bankruptcy protection. And G-Star, filed for Chapter 11. Gap, which they follow, about 80,000 store workers. So, which is, not too happy. And of course, JCPenney, they filed for Chapter 11, and J. Crew also. and Lord & Taylor closing all the stores in August. And Lucky Brand, filed for Chapter 11, Nordstrom, they closed down about 16 stores, department store. And Victoria's Secret, as you know, Hong Kong is all retreat, and then they're going to close down all 250 stores in US and Canada. And also Sarah, they think about, closing 1,200 stores in Ireland. And then this statistics, from UBS, they said for US market, if they forecast 24,000 stores in fashion and apparel will be closed by 2025. And then from manufacturing side, we have this cancellation of garment. And, because of this pandemic, it's so sudden. So this US and the EU buyers, they cancel their orders, like 16.2 billion during April to June. And, like in Bangladesh, you can see all the figures there, from different kind of sources, different kind of company. This is the cancellation orders. And why is it, you don't talk about July onwards? Because they did not even place the order. A lot of them, in the early part of the year, they would have the sample make and all these kind of things. They're going to place the order. It may not be a complete order yet, okay? And so, that's why they just stop, they call and say that, look, whatever we place, and then it's not cut, okay? Just stop all that. We rather store up the fabric, but don't make any garment. Okay, that is what the buyers were telling us. Okay, on the brighter side, otherwise I think all of you will be leaving. Okay, but we feel that, okay, with this pandemic, okay, people don't go out, but yet, on the e-commerce side, it's increasing. It really increased a lot, like in Hong Kong, it increased 13.4%. And in China, the online sales increased by 22%, whereby the offline decreased by 90%. That is in January and March, when a lot of cities are closing down, are shut down, okay? And in US, the August and September, the online sales has increased from 42% and 43% year to year. So which is a very significant, increase, in the e-commerce side. And of course, there's a lot of channel, to go through this, this online things. As you all know, all this kind of brands, like from Amazon to this Net-a-Porter, if we talk about fashion, this Fairtech, and Tmall and all this. Okay, this is some of the platform that we can go into online. And of course, there are other new channels and then new ways of promoting goods. This is something new to me about this video shopping, 直播帶貨. I never heard about it months ago. It's only as a new thing, so new that they can really take up billions of dollars of sales, and very easily. And of course, there are other things like Facebook or TikTok or just 小紅書, this kind of thing. So, okay, and then, okay, we talk so much on this online thing. And where is the offline? So, offline, actually, it still play an important role. Because a lot of people, although they go online, they want to see something on a real actual shop. Because the real actual shop, you can really go there, you can touch and feel, and you can try on the outfit or try something. That's something that you cannot do, on online things. So, but how do you integrate, this to be an online and offline? That's, that's something that the retailer have to think about. So, there'll be tools, like, how, maybe, if you're doing online things, can it be picked up in your shop? And in your shop, you can have promotion like a gift to them. Or maybe you buy something from the shop, maybe you do it online, I give you a coupon that you can use as a discount or something. There's a few ways that, you have to think about a lot of promotion, how you can integrate, an online and an offline together. Because after all, a real actual shop is an image building. You talk about branding. If you talk about that, this is how you would tell your customer what you are, and then what you are trying to perceive, give them this kind of perceived value. And with on a real actual shop, CRM is very important, which is which is a customer service. So that because why you have to go to your shop. So the personalized is very important. How you can engage with your customer, So you have to know about what kind of things they like, or why they come back to you, and what is the new product you can offer to them, what kind of support that you can give to them, for them to come back and visit you, this kind of things is important, and by that using the big data is a key important, because this is how you can know your customer. Because nowadays, a lot of things, the customer behavior, whether, the marketing on them, the trend and so on. You would track them, see how often do they go to your shop, and what kind of colors would they like, or what kind of sizes that usually they take. So, for example, a very big size woman go to their shop. If you have all the XL product come in, you can always call on them, to go and visit your store, or you tell them that what you have offer, and so on. So this kind of intimate things that you can, have this kind of relationship to your customer is going through a big data, or how you get your customer profile. And AI will play a very important role too for our fashion industry, because in the tech fashion, is a new thing for us. So how do we use AI, whether it's a shopping experience, whether you can be engaged, through a chat box or something. It's actually, why you go to a shop is for the shopping experience. It's something new, something that that you don't have, that you don't engage with all the time. So it's something new. They would think that, okay, why don't I go and try it and see? Or so that's something that with AI, with this kind of personalization. So how do we use this kind of internet technology, to give them this kind of know-how or recommendations, and talk to them, at least so that they will feel that they are really your customer and belongs to your customer base. Well, we talk so much about this. And then, what are we going to do next, because this is, how we know that, the world is really evolving. And then, a lot of times, we have to talk about, what will be Hong Kong position, and what would we do in future, okay? So we have to look beyond Hong Kong. This is how I feel, okay? Because Hong Kong is very small, okay, in size-wise and population and all this kind of things. So when we look forward, to see what are the opportunities there, we have to look at China, to look at the new generation. Okay, what is the new generation? When they talk about 1.4 billion people, and yet there are so many young people. If you imagine those born between 1981 to 1996, whereby they are only 24 to 39, there are more than 300 million people, which is 25% of the China population already. And those born after 1995, which are below 25, okay? So they are, 250 million. So if you add the two together, those under 40 years old, let's say, that takes about 600 million people. That's a big population. And this younger group, their brought up is very different to the traditional old, Chinese, that they have to go through different kind of, not to talk about wars, but revolution, whatever, this kind of things. So this kind of new generation, the concept is very different. To them, the computer, they're using IT, they're using this kind of mobile phone, to do all this kind of shopping. It's so easy to them, because they don't have to go through different kind of stages. Even with payment, we have to go through from cash to check to credit card, okay, and all this kind of thing. They skip a lot. from cash, they are now just down, just using an app to pay everything. They don't have a credit card, most of them, under 40 years old. I don't think they know anything about a credit card. Okay, so to them it's a very new age, okay, and yet it's a big population. And so, even on the domestic market, if you look at the size, okay, in China, it's $290 billion in 2018. And this forecast of 325.6 billion in 2022, if you see from the chart, is already exceed USA because it's a big, huge market. And then against the other countries that you can see, from, to India, Japan, Germany, UK, or Italy, France, and so on, this is way above, okay, with the size of the market. Of course, garment is one of them, on the domestic market, they might have, on other things, but still, it's a big volume. And then, during this COVID-19, the outbreak, the worldwide retail sales decreased by 5.7%, which now is even lower, okay? But in China, the total retail sales in October of the consumer goods increased by 3.6%, and the online retail sales increased by 24%, which is still very large, okay? And then when we talk about, okay, the greater, on the China is so big. So where should we go first? Everybody is talking about this Great Bay Area, the GBA, okay, which cover this, Hong Kong and Macau and the 9 cities in the southern part of China. So, and with this, when you compare this Greater Bay Area of China compared to Tokyo and New York, in size of, in terms of the size, is China is 56,000 kilometers square, okay? And then compared to Tokyo, New York, and San Francisco, you can see the size is so much bigger. And when it comes to the population, it's 71 million compared to 44 million, 20 million, 7.8 million. And then with the size now, of course, it's a new Greater Bay Area, which is only 1,642 billion. It's still below, Tokyo and New York. But then, it's an increase year by year. And with that, they have this estimate by McKinsey. They said by year 2023 will be one of the biggest bay among the 4. So, this, and then this is close to Hong Kong. So this is something, an opportunity that we should, really look into. Especially Hong Kong has a lot of this kind of policy that, a lot of funding and so on, that, different people can apply for different kind of fundings. And if you look even further, there are opportunities of the Belt and Road. Of course, it's, to talk first, people perceive that it would be only on a big scale things, infrastructure and so on. But then actually, when you really look at it closely, other than that, there are other kind of, consumer product or, different kind of marketing or the market access to it. And actually, when we talk about garment industry, actually, we need this labor-intensive area. And along this Belt and Road, there are a lot of countries actually would offer you, this kind of opportunity with bigger land, people, lower, lower labor cost. And then, with the government, they welcome a lot of, foreigners, especially from Hong Kong, to invest over there. So there are factories in Bangladesh, actually we have a factory of our own. We know that it's so easy to have the workers working for you, and you don't have to worry about this labor problem, and yet they can produce. But of course the quality is not as high when compared to China and so on. But depends on which customer that you're dealing with. And then also you can even go further. Just now you have the map that you can see, as this Belt and Road is even from Hong Kong all the way, to Europe, right? And China, they make a lot of railway, from China, a few railway already operated, so that, it will be helping, the industry for the logistic. Instead of going on flight, which is very expensive, by train, take a longer, by sea, it takes a longer time. So there's a lot of train, going up. And then for our company, actually, we even set up, our factories in Ethiopia. Why Ethiopia? Because that factory is a cotton, is a spinning mill, and we use a lot of cotton. And so, raw material is one of the factors. When you say about, in South Africa, actually, in Africa, there's a lot of, it's good to grow cotton. So, we can have the resources. And when we have the raw material supply, and then with the lower, labor cost, and of course, with the foreigners, they always give you some kind of taxation, relaxation, and so on. So that's why we started our factory already, over there. And Hong Kong has always been a major hub for global fashion. We have all this kind of accumulate, our knowledge, is over the years. Like, just now we talk about from 1950 to now, we really accumulate a lot of deep knowledge and know-how, product management, marketing, consumer preference and market access, beyond Hong Kong. And also, Hong Kong government launches a lot of favorable policy and different kind of fund support, like BOD or the SME funds, and also technology or marketing funds or DBIS, and all this kind of different kind of voucher, whatever. So this, we can think about how to utilize it. And the fashion incubation, and PolyU is one of the good thing is because you have the school here, that every year you have so many graduates coming out, that will be really a good asset for the industry. And so this well-established education for fashion industry, and I tell you, PolyU, you're number one here. Yes. So we hope that our students, our faculty, would have a good opportunity when they graduate, to get into the new world. Yeah. So thank you very much. This is my sharing. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Shirley Chan, for very, very insightful sharing. And all the points, I can say that is exactly on the point that what we need to focus on in coming years. And I'm very delighted to also share that today is also the time for one of our subjects called sourcing and logistics. So the students, some of our students are here, and with the subject lecturer, Dr. Fendi. And so it's a very good opportunities that we have a chance to see each other rather than the online teaching. So maybe I would like to invite students who came here today to take these opportunities to ask our speakers some questions. Any?
And also online, maybe online student later. We invite offline students first.
Yes. So just raise your hand. I share the mic with you.
Wesley?
Okay.
Thank you. I have a question about RCEP. And recently, this RCEP has accepted. What do you think the influence it can bring to the China in textile industry or clothing industry? Thank you.
May I know, you talk about this new agreement, right? Yeah. Okay, because it's so new, this agreement. But of course, if they are going to sign, of course it would be good for the trade, because with the past agreement, we know that they would have this tax. When you really manufacture in different area, when you go to those different kind of countries, you would have tax-free. Okay, that's one of the key points that is good for our manufacturers. Say you make it in Indonesia, you ship to China, it will be tax-free. Otherwise, you would not enjoy this kind of things. So this is one of the things, and also then beside the taxation, you will have cooperation between the countries, so that because then the countries will be more together, because we look into the globalization now. We are not talking about one country. So if there are more countries together, going for the same kind of aim at the same goal, that would be helpful, for manufacturing and industries. I don't know whether I get your point. Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Nice to meet you. Yeah. When you do the presentation, since 1950 till now, it's all about mass manufacturing, right? And recently, we have a big production everywhere in all countries, including offshore. But Jack Ma, Alibaba recently brought up the relevant smart manufacturing platform. It's talk about less scale, and the DIY really can order based on the customer personalization, very decent order. Do you think it's possible? And because I will see any impact on the compliance as well. And how about the distribution and material support? What is your insight about this concept?
Okay, good question. So, well, because with this new normal, people would not keep that much stock, okay? And everybody wants to be more personal. So, there's a trend of talking about how, you can, the manufacturing will just keep the fabric maybe. And then, through online, you can just order, things that you like. Especially now, when you talk about this fashion week. Let's say, beforehand, you have only 2 seasons in Europe, right? You have the spring, summer, and then the fall, winter. But now, because of the internet, everybody, is go online. And if it's online, you can imagine, you can just see from a computer. If you see from a computer, you can really zoom in. You can see all the detail. If you want to lock it down, so easy, right? Lock off, one garment on the other. So easy. So how do you tackle that? So even big manufacturers or big brand names, they will think about how are we going to do something to the market. So would that be only once a week, once a year, twice a year things, for the fashion show? Or should that be a quarterly basis or even monthly basis? Or maybe a 52 weeks, fashion weeks, so that people can really see the catwalk and yet can order immediately rather than, have to wait for this, for 6 months delivery. So I think this is a trend that some people are thinking about, okay, or even the designers cater for that. It's going to be that kind of a trend, okay? And the second question is, sorry, yeah.
Materials arrangement, because it's all about the small order, and the difficulty for the material arrangement and logistics.
This would be difficult, okay? Because in US, they always talk about this, these compliances. So with compliances, there's it's a little bit headache, okay? Because if you are not a big factories, you may not be capable to do all this kind of compliances. But the world is changing, so their concept has to be changed. If you go for this kind of area, would that be, would be very different? So but still, even if you go for this kind of new fashion, a personalized fashion, but still there will be still big players in the market. Still Nike, I still think they will still place 10,000 pieces or 100,000 pieces per order, right? So those kind of things, they can go for the compliances. And for the smaller one, they might be a little bit difficult, but they have to have a give and take. Yeah. Okay? Yeah, thanks. Thank you.
So we have a question from the
online
so.
audience. All right. This one from Ricky.
Thank you.
Okay. The question is regarding RCEP, the trade agreement that just signed among 15 countries in Asia Pacific regions. If we focus on apparel industry, do you think China is losing their competitive edge as manufacturing. I believe he is asking whether the movement of manufacturing, apparel manufacturing, will go faster from China to the South Asia countries.
Well, in a way that China is a big country. They have a lot of manufacturing. And a lot of times, actually, their GDP is kind on nowadays, okay, on the high-tech things. So, when it comes to the garment manufacturing, they don't mind, actually, to have some of the production, move into, Southeast Asia, especially with these trade treaties, that they can still buy back, okay? It's just that, their labor is still will go for something else. It's not that they are closing the factories, that they move into a different area. Yeah.
All right. We have another question about the U.S.-China relations impacts on the fashion industry. What is the will about the influence of Sino-American relationships in fashion industry?
That's to do something on the politics side too, okay? So with this Biden, become president, we heard, okay? So far, he's still not the president yet, okay? But we heard that, he might relax a little bit, okay? Not as tough as now, okay? But we know that, still, they will still think China is one of their major competitor. So they still impose a lot of things. But then, it might not be as harsh, as it was before. That's how we feel, yeah.
So any more questions from the floor?
Yeah, maybe we can take one last question.
Yeah.
Anyone?
Yes.
Hello. Hello.
Hi.
So my question is, how does the trend of things going from offline to online affect garment manufacturing? Like you mentioned, the customers are moving their shopping method from going into the stores into shopping online. So does that have any effect or influence on how the garment manufacturer works, or does it affect your company a lot? Can you share some insights?
I think, a lot of retailers are getting used to this online and offline thing, especially with this shutdown. Let's say, I share my little experience. Okay, with our shop, we have some of the shop, we have a lot of China tourists, okay, Chinese tourists. They cannot come here. So what can we do? So we just use, mobile app or, this kind of, e-commerce to show them our line. And then, they would sort of, order, through it. And then we just have the shipment to ship it over. So this is how we can, we have to really get online and offline going. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
I'm a geoscientist, so I would like to know more. Under this new norm, what kind of technology change is going to be for those people stay at home and work at home, and for kids stay at home and work at home? What kind of new technology for fashion and textile will be more preferred or should be developed in the future? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, just now we talk about our trade, our businesses going down, but yet a few sectors are going up. Other than the supermarket, the IT people, their sales are very, very good. Because everybody is using IT now, whether it's a Zoom or whatever, the apps and so on, or people have to change, to upgrade the web page or the getting into the e-commerce. So there's a lot of new things, technology, is through all this kind of IT business. And also when it comes to the fashion side, we will always say that technology is very important too. Whether it's a 3D printing or whether it is this kind of new technical fabric, this will be something bad, something really good, for the people, for our consumer and for the manufacturing. So new technology really helps, for our industry. it even on the sustainability side too, because you need a lot of technology to help to recycle all this kind of old garments or the old fabric. Yeah.
Okay. So there are a few more questions from the online
Yes.
forum, and there's one particular related to the technologies. I would like to bring that up first. Anna asked, does blockchain is being considered to use in manufacturing to increase the transparencies of the supply chain? Yeah, what do you think about the blockchain technologies?
Well, the blockchain, you know, actually, now you talk about the digital, everything on digital. You have digital, even digital money now. Okay, so blockchain is, you know, it's a way of new things that we have to adopt to. Okay, whether it's payment or data collecting and all this kind of things. So this is something that we really have to make an effort, you know, in order. I cannot say survive, but you know, really, you know, new things that we really have to adopt. Yeah.
Okay. So thank you. And there's one question particularly related to Hong Kong. One attendees from online platform asked, Hong Kong is all about luxury market and foreign tourists. How do you see the future of brick and mortar boutiques? Will there be some kind of transformations?
Yes, definitely. Thank you. I think, you know, Hong Kong, why it was so good with all this kind of luxury market was because China, you know, is very high tax when it comes to the luxury, you know, items. And also in Japan or Thailand or elsewhere. But with this pandemic, and then with the world was changing, a lot of those places, they lowered the tax. So when it lowered the tax, that would be a hit to Hong Kong, whether they would really have to come over here to shop those luxurious items. So, but then, you know, those kind of big labels, they look at Hong Kong or China as a whole. They would think that, okay, I don't ship to Hong Kong, I ship to China or something. You know, to them, you know, they still have that kind of market. But Hong Kong will suffer a little bit. So the rental has to go down. That's one thing, I guess.
Very good. Thank you.
Maybe this question, I think, the students will care about.
Yeah, let's ask the question regarding the graduates. So one question is, would it be more difficult for fashion graduates to find jobs? What suggestion would you give to graduates this year and next year when they are hunting new jobs?
Okay, it's a very concerning question. I know that, you know, when you graduate next year, as the world is still not in a good shape because of this year, you know, with this kind of recession. So, you know, picking up is more difficult. You drop 50%, it's easy. But you gain back 50%, it's still 75% of what you were before. So, you know, it's very new, okay? So a lot of time, you know, I just say that, you know, there were jobs lost and so on. So the opportunity, of course, is a little bit less, okay? But you have to equip yourself for those graduates because, you know, opportunity is always there. Although there might be less, you know, of certain kind of job. So you have to, you know, to gear yourself, to equip yourself that, you know, okay, you're facing not a, you know, a prosperous thing, but then, you know, it might be tough. It might be tough for a few years, you know, but, you know, this is something that you learn. Okay, so something that, you know, you might have to a little bit difficult to start up, okay? But then, you know, you learn from your experience. And also when you talk about, you know, opportunities, don't talk about just Hong Kong itself. You have to think about global. You know, just now we talk about the, you know, the Greater Bay Area. We talk about, you know, this Belt and Road. I'll give you an example. We have, I have, you know, factory in Bangladesh. I hire a few key person. They are from Hong Kong. And then yet one of them, they are, you know, he had a better job because, you know, from Bangladesh, he was hired to go to Cambodia, okay? So that in a way that you can understand that, you have to have this kind of vision that, would you like, would you be suffer for a few time, just at a few moment, okay? That you have to learn in a different place so that, you have a good groundwork so that you can move up. That's this, if, as long as you yourself, you have all this kind of basic knowledge, and then you grasp the opportunity, learning, from a hard way, you can always be there. So don't worry, okay? Don't worry about it.
Great. Thank you. We always emphasize our students and programs are global fashion business. It's not just Hong Kong.
Yes.
Yeah, so
Good.
So many students here are global fashion business, right?
Great.
Yes.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go beyond. Go beyond Hong
Yeah.
Kong. Go beyond. Yeah.
So maybe one more question.
One last question.
Yeah. Which one you
Okay.
pick?
All right. One question is about CSR from Mainland. What do you think about the future of CSR under the new normal, corporate social responsibility? Should fashion corporate focus more on well-being of their employees or anything? You think it would be very important in future CSR?
Good. This is something I thought of ending up with too. Very good question. Thank you. Actually, with this pandemic, I think, the world is changing. Yes, it's, a lot of business go down. And yet it's a time for us to think about relationship. And when we can talk about relationship, we talk about care and love, okay? And how you're going to treat your your employees, your customer, and so on. So this is a key point, for the CSR, we should, even pay more attention, in order that, we are working, it's not only for making money. The world is actually, you should be together, you should be united. So, you should be, a kind of a sharing. And also, don't worry, I think, we are in a storm. Everyone, suffer here or there, maybe a little bit or more or whatever. We're in the storm, but after the storm, there's always a rainbow. Yeah. One door closed, another one opens. So don't worry, just be positive. Okay?
We are Queen no more.
Yes.
So thank you so much, Ms. Shirley Chan, for your sharing today.
You.
And I'm very happy to announce that we actually have 150 participants today to share the talk online and offline under the new normal.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And
Thank
yeah, for
Yes.
the sourcing and logistics students, you should carry on your lecture. So Dr. Fendi will come.
Thank you so much.